Hello and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm John Cartwright and I'm joined with Steve Bowling to discuss why we think a Direct may not happen and why we should keep our expectations grounded. So Steve, there's been a lot of whispers about a Direct happening, but mostly just from one source, not a very reliable source either, though there have been a couple of other social media accounts, but none of them too reliable. There hasn't been a big name who said that a Direct is coming. But this has spiraled into a giant hype wave, which is spreading around not only on forums and comment sections on Twitter, but also from other YouTube channels trying to sort of repeat the message. But why exactly we think that there may not be one is because nothing's really adding up, nothing's really suggesting that there will be one. So Steve, I just want to start this for a moment. Why shouldn't we believe just someone saying there's a Direct? Why shouldn't we just take their word as gospel?
I think you need to consider the source that you're getting this information from, John. You know, there's definitely like your key players, and information can and does come from anywhere, but it's really important to think about who's telling you about these types of things and what their track record is. And right now it seems like the major, well, I don't want to say major, but the largest proponent of this rumor is one that almost never gets anything right. I'm not going to name check him or anything, but I see this same source, you know, posting stuff about just things that are outright not true and don't come to pass, but people tend to kind of forget about those things because it's something that maybe they want to hear. I mean, I think we all want a Direct, so I think when somebody comes out, regardless of how spotty their record might be, and says, hey, this Direct with all this stuff you want is coming right now or very soon, people tend to just get excited because they want that to be the truth.
I like to liken it to tabloids, right? Like, if I go into a shop and I see a tabloid that says, oh, the world's going to end tomorrow, I'm not going to read that and say, oh, what? Oh my, it's ending? Obviously, there are different sources. Some are more reliable than others. And I think a good thing to do is look at their track records. Like, if you look at this site, you will see that they have speculated a Direct is going to happen multiple times now, and maybe like 2 times out of 20 it does. That kind of track record to me says that they're speculating and are sometimes getting it right, but most of the time getting it wrong. And if you have a track record like that, then it's really not worth paying attention to. If you remember back to that whole Grinch thing with Smash, we didn't really report on it, and a big reason for that is because the source wasn't attached to it. That image just came from nowhere. But that was quite sketchy. Like, there was no one who was just saying like, oh, my source gave this to me. This image was just floating around, and no one could really source it. And to us, that just doesn't seem like a reliable thing worth reporting on.
Yeah, you know, the Grinch leak was a nightmare for most of us in the journalistic community. And it's great that you bring that up, because one of the points that I would love to make about these types of rumors and leaks is that if it's too good to be true, or if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And the Grinch leak was a perfect example of that, because it had all these characters that so many people wanted to see, which I think is part of why a lot of folks put blinders on and just wanted to believe this leak, because it had a character that people, you know, it had characters everyone had been asking for years. So I understood why people wanted to believe it, but as somebody who looks at these things as a piece of evidence, it was clear that that rumor had no legs. Basically, if it comes from somewhere sketchy, if it comes from someone that hasn't previously reported on this type of stuff in the past, or even if it does, you should always think about it critically. Could this possibly be true? Does it make sense? With the Grinch leak, in the case of this Direct, a lot of people would find, no, it doesn't really make sense if you look closer at it.
I think that's something a lot of, not just the general gaming populace need to do, but also sites and YouTube channels. Like, if you're echoing a rumor, then all of a sudden you're giving it more of a platform. So usually when some kind of leak or data mine comes out, we will research it. If it turns out to be wrong, then we won't post it. But there have been occasions where we have posted a rumor and it was then found out to be false. We take that down. There was a Mario Tennis Aces data mine, well, with quotations data mine, that had Link in the game, which we thought was legit. It was going around and people thought it was legit. Turned out it wasn't though, so we took that video down. I think that's something that more outlets should be doing, really, because it is our responsibility to get truth out there. And I also think there's a good point of, that do Nintendo always need a Direct to share information? Let's bring up Mario Maker 2. That game's coming out in June, and we've seen it once in a Direct. There has been nothing more for that game though. I do think they need to share some details like multiplayer and other things like that. That doesn't necessarily have to be done through a Nintendo Direct. They could have a social media campaign. They could send it out to influencers and media early so they do the talking for them. And I think that's kind of the best way to do it with Mario Maker, because that's a game about, sharing and making, and what better way to do that than have other people do the marketing for you, pretty much. And then there's also, do we need a Direct at the moment? Animal Crossing is a game that's probably coming out maybe late summer. What's the need to have information now when that game's not going to be coming out for a couple of months?
Right, and I totally agree with you, John. I think that people are wanting a Direct because there hasn't been one in a little bit. I mean, we're still not that far out from the last one. Honestly, when you look historically at the gaps between Directs, it can sometimes be 3 or 4 months. And we know for sure that we're getting our E3 Direct. So we're at most 2 months away from another Direct.
I'm not really feeling the need for a Direct, though. We've got Box Boy coming out next week. Oh, it's 2 weeks, I think. Labo VR's next week. There's a lot of stuff coming, and there's still games that we know about that aren't out yet, like Luigi's Mansion and plenty of other games. And I don't expect them to be out soon, so I just don't see the urgency to have one yet.
Oh, you're absolutely right. They're not going to announce any new games and release them in the next 60 days. I mean, that's just not going to happen. Nothing first party anyway. We'll definitely get a ton of games. There's a ton of games releasing every day. But as far as a Direct where they focus on first-party efforts, I think we kind of know everything for the first half of this year. I think that E3 is going to be where they blow the lid off of the second half of 2019.
I know someone's writing a comment right now saying, Joker, what about Joker? He's coming this month. And yeah, Joker is coming this month, or at least he most likely is. There's speculation going around about whether he's been delayed or not. But yeah, who knows about that? But on the topic of Joker, though, do we need a Nintendo Direct to launch Joker? A thought I've had is, do we even need a marketing campaign to launch Joker? Piranha Plant, of course, came with update 2.0, and that was told a week in advance. You can share you can save your replays. But we were never told that Piranha Plant was launching with 2.0, and I think they could do the same thing with Joker. Now, granted, they showed off Piranha Plant beforehand in the I think it's November or December Direct, and they haven't shown Joker in gameplay at all. But I kind of wonder, do they need to do that? People have already paid for the Fighter's Pass. People have paid for this character. I think they could just have social media do the marketing for them and just launch him whenever they want to.
The people that are interested in getting Joker for Smash already have Smash and already have the Fighter's Pass. It's important to remember that Nintendo Directs are just ads. They're commercials. I don't think Nintendo is going to produce an entire Direct just to sell a few more Fighter's Passes. I think what they will do is that we might see commercials for Smash on YouTube or traditional media that outline hey, there's a new fighter in Smash, and if you've been waiting, there's one more character on the roster. We might see some kind of weird advertising campaign that shows that Joker is now in the game, but more than likely, like you said, it'll be influencers and people on social media just posting breakdowns of the character and everything that get people to hop in that may not have already. But your vast majority of people who care about Joker already have Smash and already have the Fighter's Pass.
And there's also the point of Persona 5S being announced on April 25th. That's happening on day 2 of the Persona concert. And I have seen people saying, what if they announced Joker there? It could happen, because Joker was at the Game Awards after all. But this is an Atlus event, and I think that Atlus have made it clear that they're announcing Persona 5, they're unveiling Persona 5 The Royal there, and announcing Persona 5S. I literally think this is just a very small event, and that's all they're planning to announce. Of course, it is possible there could also be a Direct that day, so I find that unlikely. I think this event is just Atlus. I don't think Nintendo have any involvement.
But I do wonder if it's possible that Nintendo is going to piggyback on that timing, especially if NCL are the ones dictating the timing on this, because they might say, oh, people will be talking about Persona, so let's, release Joker right around that time. Again, that's assuming a whole bunch of stuff. So, yeah, I do believe Joker will release this month, but I don't think he's going to be announced at a concert. I don't think that I really just don't think there will be a huge fanfare for this release. I think we know most of what we need to know is that Joker is part of the roster and will be coming possibly this month based on that Best Buy leak, which to me is legit. It had art that we've never seen before, and it was definitely in their ad. Tons of people verified it, and I don't think they just have that type of information without Nintendo being involved.
It's kind of exciting to have a character we know nothing about. It's like going back to Melee and finding out Mewtwo's in this game, and they have this entire moveset you have to learn. I think that's quite cool to me, if they do it like that. Another thing I want to bring up is people often look to patterns. Like, for instance, people think that Joker may launch on April 11th, because that's when basically Persona 5 begins in the year. I don't think that really makes a whole lot of sense for releasing games, though. Nintendo release things when it makes the most financial sense. And I suppose Joker can come out whenever he wants to, really. So maybe there will be a pattern there, but the majority of the time, they only ever release games on anniversaries when it just lines up with what's already happening. They don't usually wait on an anniversary to release a game. So I kind of think, like, looking for patterns doesn't really make sense. Like, for instance, we all sort of thought there'd be a Direct in January, just because there always is, but there wasn't. I just don't think Nintendo really looked at these kind of patterns. They just do things when it makes sense to do them.
Absolutely. The only pattern that exists is that Nintendo has a pattern of ignoring patterns. I imagine that Joker will come out whenever they assume people will pay for him, or when they can net some new customers.
And also, here's just one more point about this particular Direct. So this is Reggie's last week at Nintendo. And he's getting ready to retire, so I don't think they're going to bring him out for just one more Direct, because for one, he's already said goodbye in a Twitter video, and two, Reggie's not a character. He's a human who's just finished his job. He doesn't need a conclusion to his story. And I don't want to be a buzzkill there, because I love Reggie. I think he's a great guy. He's been at Nintendo for a long time now. Just the idea of him doing one more Direct, I don't think makes sense from his position. We never have CEOs just come out to just say like a goodbye. They just finish their jobs like normal people. I just don't think there's any credibility to there being a Direct just because this is Reggie's last week. I mean, Reggie's not even been in a Direct since June of 2018. It's been almost a year.
It's really rare for a CEO to post a video saying goodbye to their customers. So for him to go out of his way to do that and break with traditional norms of American executives by actually posting this video, he's not going to come around to do it for a second time. It was already out of the ordinary when he did it for the first time. He's definitely not coming back again. And like you said, as much as we Nintendo fans may treat him as part of the larger Nintendo mythos, he is still just a man who ran a company that made some of our favorite games. But at the end of the day, he's leaving that job because he wants to go on to do other things. So yeah, I don't see him doing a final Direct, or, he's not the Monopoly Man or Jeffrey the Giraffe or something like that. He's done with his job and he's going to go home.
I love Nintendo Directs. I think the speculation can be part of the fun, but also appreciate what we have. There was a quote from Reggie once where he said something along the lines of, people are always just asking, what's next? What's next? What's happening after that? And, there's a lot of games we could be playing right now. Like Final Fantasy 10 and 12 are launching this month on Switch. If you've not played those before, there's so much to do in those games. Box Boy's about to come out. Labo VR's about to come out. Yoshi just came out. So maybe take a moment, rather than just looking into the future, look at what we have. Like, there's so much you could be doing rather than just anticipating what is coming next.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. There's more than enough on the eShop to keep folks satisfied between Directs. I don't have time to play most things, so I'm still trying to beat Yoshi. So as we get closer to a Direct, there becomes more of a fever pitch around one. I don't think we're as close as most people think we are, but you can still get that sense that people are just already, into this hype cycle, and maybe we should just sit back a little bit and enjoy the fact that we have a ton of great games coming out very soon. Directs are great when they happen, but they have to have something to show us. And right now, I'm not convinced that they do.
And I think us as a community have a trend of sort of wishing them into existence. There's been no signs of there being one. It's just one source which isn't all that viable, but it spawned this massive wave of hype. So I think the biggest takeaway is to just always think about if something is reliable, and at the same time, think about what we have as well. So Steve, is there anything else you want to bring up before we end off? Anything else you want to say about just hyping up things or like maintaining your expectations?
Absolutely. Hype responsibly, folks. It is so much fun to get swept away in the hype. I know I've done it a million times. You might remember how much I was freaking out during the last Direct, because I think we were all on Discord talking about it as it was happening. And when Link's Awakening showed up, I lost my mind. So, I mean, I understand being hyped. I understand wanting something to happen, even, in the face of a lack of evidence. It's important to remember, one, be good to each other. because if anything, I've seen that things can get really nasty when people want something to happen and it doesn't. And 2, just remember that keep your wits about you. If something sounds too good to be true, it absolutely is. And if somebody says a direct is coming next week and it's got every game you ever wanted, probably isn't actually going to happen. Let's keep ourselves grounded and calm while we wait for the next big direct and play a ton of the really cool games that are out now or are coming out soon.
And if a list has Mother 3 on it, then it's probably fake. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for tuning in for this. If you want to catch more from us, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook. We also have a Patreon, where for just $1 a month, you can get early access to the GameXplain Real Talk podcast, in addition to some exclusive shows such as GameXplain Face to Face and Tom's Thumbnail Workshop. Until then, guys, thanks so much for watching, and of course be sure to subscribe to GameXplain for a lot more on Nintendo Directs and other things gaming too. Until next time, bye.